I feel like every other video on my feed lately is about manifesting.
Oh, yeah. The whole aesthetic soft focus advice trend.
Right, exactly. It's always, visualize your dream life or just believe you're already that person and the universe will supposedly just deliver a promotion or a soulmate.
Yeah, it's the law of attraction, but repackaged for the algorithm.
Yeah.
It really appeals to this idea that that desire alone is a magnetic force.
Exactly. But what if I told you there's a much older and honestly much more rigorous version of this?
Okay.
Like a literal algorithm for wishing? And I'm not talking about making a vision board.
Right.
I'm talking about a highly technical cause and effect script. One that claims to grant you everything from just being liked by your coworkers to, well, let's just say significantly weirder stuff.
Like reading minds or hearing sounds from divine realms.
Yeah, and the thing that really caught me in the source material we're doing a deep dive into today is that the input code for getting a free lunch is exactly the same as the input code for gaining supernatural powers.
It's a fascinating premise. It suggests the universe isn't a vending machine with, different prices for different items. It's a single door that just opens everything at once.
So today we are diving into a sermon delivered by Fra Ajahn, a Thai Buddhist monk, and we really have to talk about the setting first because it frames the whole conversation.
It does.
This was recorded recently, February 24th, 2026, and the audio quality is, let's call it raw.
It is very raw. The monastery was actually in the middle of a total blackout.
Right.
They were replacing power poles in the area, so the internet lines were cut, the lights were out. The monk is broadcasting over a really spotty phone signal, presumably just running off battery power.
Which is such a perfect metaphor for the content.
Absolutely.
The whole talk is about stripping things back to the absolute necessities. It's about spiritual logistics, really. We're going to cover everything from a surprisingly strict breakdown of how to use AI for translation to a literal heist story involving the King of Gods.
And ultimately a physics lesson on how to turn off the projector of reality.
Let's jump in with the very first thing that happens in the sermon. The monk starts by, rejecting people.
Yeah, he shuts them down.
Apparently there's been this wave of people asking to ordain as monks for just a few days, like a long weekend retreat or a spiritual holiday.
And Fra Ajahn is very clear about this. He just says, don't bother.
Which seems counterintuitive, right? I mean, usually organizations want to pump up their numbers. Why turn away eager volunteers?
It's a quality control issue for him. He argues that ordination isn't a tourist activity. He mentions that even 3 or 4 months isn't nearly enough time to train a mind properly.
So 3 or 4 days is just cosplay.
Basically, yeah. His view is that if you can't commit to the indefinite timeline, essentially signing a blank check with your life, you are much better off remaining a layperson.
Right. He suggests just wearing white and keeping the 8 precepts instead. But he goes further than that. He draws this really sharp distinction between being sufficient for yourself and being sufficient for others.
This is a crucial competency model he lays out. He's saying, look, if you put on the saffron robes, you become a symbol. You are a representative of the Dhamma.
Right.
So to be sufficient for others, meaning to teach or propagate the religion, you need a very specific tech stack.
What's in that stack?
You need a steel trap memory, eloquent speech, and the ability to instantly grasp kusala dhamma.
Okay, kusala dhamma. Let's unpack that term for a second.
Sure. Kusala means wholesome, skillful, or clever. And Dhamma is the truth or the nature of things. So he's saying you need the intellectual sharpness to distinguish in real time between what leads to suffering and what leads to the end of suffering.
Which is not easy.
No, not at all. If you can't do that, you try to teach, you're just confusing people, you might accidentally lead them right off a cliff.
So the takeaway is basically stay in your lane. If you don't have those skills, your only job is to perfect your own mind.
Exactly. It's the classic put your own oxygen mask on first rule. He says helping others is actually just a side effect, a bonus that spills over from your own perfection. You don't aim to help. You aim to be perfect, and then the help just happens.
And I really love this part. He does offer a loophole for those of us who aren't master orators but still want to be useful. He lists these incredibly low-tech ways to have high-impact influence without ever giving a sermon.
These methods are great because they totally remove the ego. He suggests simply reading the suttas, the original scriptures, aloud.
Just reading them.
Right. No commentary. No, here's what I think this means. Just read the data.
Or my personal favorite, just sit there.
The visual influence.
Yes.
He talks about Anapanasati, or mindfulness of breathing. He says if you just sit in a public space, or even at a chaotic family gathering, and you are perfectly still, focused entirely on your breath, you are teaching.
You become a visual anchor of peace in a room full of noise. You literally don't have to say a single word.
Use that really touching example of the uneducated elders.
Right, the rural older generation.
Yeah, they might be illiterate, they can't read the texts, and they certainly can't write essays on philosophy.
No.
But they have listened to the Dhamma so much they've memorized it.
They've basically downloaded the audio file.
Essentially, yes. And when a crisis hits a funeral, a family dispute, some moment of high emotion, they become the pillars.
Because they don't offer opinions.
Exactly. They quote the source code. They say, the Buddha said we handle grief like this. It carries so much weight because it's not their personal opinion. It's authority through pure embodiment.
Speaking of source code, we really need to pivot to the tech angle here. Because this deep dive took a sharp turn into Silicon Valley territory, which I absolutely did not expect from a monk sitting in a blackout.
The AI project.
Yes. The monastery is using AI.
It is fascinating. They are building a platform called e-Tipitaka.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to translate the Pali Canon, the standard collection of scriptures, into English and other languages instantly.
But anyone who has used a large language model knows they hallucinate. They make things up all the time. They try to be helpful by just inventing answers. How do they handle that when they're dealing with sacred texts?
They handle it with extreme constraints. The monk explains that they feed the AI the Pali source data, but they give it a very strict frame. It is absolutely forbidden from using any words that aren't the Tathagata's words.
Tathagata being the term the Buddha used to refer to himself.
Correct. It translates to the one who has gone thus. The AI is instructed to ignore 2,000 years of commentary, later interpretations, and modern philosophy. It has to stick strictly to the original signal.
It's almost ironic when you think about it. They are using the most bleeding-edge technology, generative AI, to be absolute fundamentalists.
It makes total sense if you view the text as a technical manual. If you're translating a manual for a nuclear reactor, you don't want the translator adding their own creative flair or interpreting what they think the engineer meant.
No, you want accuracy.
Exactly. The monk mentions that humans are inconsistent. We get tired, we have biases, we have bad days. The goal with the AI is to create a database that never contradicts the source.
He did mention that humans still have to audit it, though.
Yes, the human in the loop. They catch the errors, feed them back, and the model updates. But the obsession here is purity. In this worldview, clarity is the ultimate asset. If the input is messy, your enlightenment is messy.
Which brings us perfectly to the core of this discussion, the algorithm. The monk starts quoting from a specific text called the Akankeya Sutta, and this is where the wishing comes in.
This is the real meat of the source material. The sutta is structured as a list of conditional statements. Basically, if a monk wishes for X, he should do Y.
And the list of X, the wishes themselves, is wild. It starts out so normally. It says, if a monk wishes to be loved and respected by his fellows. We all want that. We want to be liked at the office.
Sure, basic social cohesion.
But then it escalates. It goes to material needs. If a monk wishes to receive robes, food, and medicine easily, then it goes altruistic. If a monk wishes that the people who give him food receive great merit.
Which is a very specific monk-like wish.
And then we go full sci-fi.
Right.
If a monk wishes to hear sounds with the divine ear, if a monk wishes to read minds, if a monk wishes to recall past lives. And finally, the ultimate goal. If a monk wishes to end all taints, meaning to become fully enlightened.
It covers the entire spectrum of human desire, from I want lunch to I want to exit the simulation entirely.
Here is what blew my mind. I expected the price for these to change. You know, to get a free lunch, maybe you just need to be nice and do some chores. To read minds, you probably need to meditate in a cave for 40 years.
But that's not what the text says at all.
No. What is the requirement?
It is identical for every single wish. The monk recites the same 5-step formula over and over.
Let's hear them.
1. Be perfect in precepts, meaning moral discipline. 2. Be devoted to internal serenity of mind. 3. Do not neglect jhana. 4. Possess vipassana, or insight. And 5. Dwell in empty places or solitude.
It's a flat-rate economy. Whether you want a sandwich or telepathy, the cost is exactly the same.
It completely challenges our normal way of thinking. We usually compartmentalize everything. We have a strategy for our career, a different strategy for our relationships, and maybe a third strategy for our mental health. The monk is arguing that these aren't separate domains.
Why is that? Why doesn't mind reading cost more than just being popular?
Because in this system, those things, popularity, resources, even psychic powers, they are just side effects. They're the exhaust fumes of a high-performance engine.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
The engine is a mind that is concentrated, ethical, and detached. If you build that engine, you can drive to the grocery store, or you can drive to the moon. The engine simply doesn't care.
You mentioned do not neglect jhana as one of the steps. We hear about mindfulness a lot in the wellness world today, but jhana is different, right? This isn't just listening to a calm app on your phone.
Very different. And the monk emphasizes this strongly. Do not neglect jhana. Mindfulness is often about being aware of the present moment, the taste of your coffee, the feeling of the chair you're sitting in. Jhana is a state of deep absorption.
Right.
It's when the mind becomes so unified and single-pointed that the entire sensory world starts to fade away.
It's like high-intensity interval training, but for the brain.
Exactly. Think of mindfulness as snorkeling. You're looking at the fish from the surface. Jhana is deep-sea diving. You are under the pressure, totally immersed. The monk implies that you can't just think your way to these results. You have to fundamentally alter your state of consciousness through this rigorous absorption.
To illustrate the power of this high-energy state, the monk told a story that frankly sounds like a heist movie, the story of Mahakassapa and the god Saka.
This is such a classic story in the canon. So, Mahakassapa is a senior monk, essentially a saint, extremely austere. He has just exited this state of jhana, that deep absorption we just talked about. He's been in it for 7 days.
So he's fully charged.
He is glowing with spiritual potential.
Oh.
Now, according to the spiritual physics of this world, giving a meal to a monk who just came out of that state is like hitting the jackpot.
It's a massive merit multiplier.
Massive. It generates instant, incredible good karma. And the deities, the gods know this.
So Saka, the king of the deities, decides he wants those points.
Which is greedy, right? He's already the king of gods.
Exactly.
But Mahakassapa knows the poor people in the village need the merit way more than a god does. Their lives are hard. They need the spiritual currency to get a bit of rebirth or just to survive their current situation. So he plans to accept food only from the poor.
So what does the king of gods do? He commits fraud.
He disguises himself. Saka turns himself into a frail, old, poor weaver. He even creates a fake wife, and they look completely destitute. He waits for Mahakassapa and dumps a ladle of food into his bowl.
And Mahakassapa realizes it.
He realizes it because of the smell. The food smells literally divine. The curry smells way too good to be peasant food. He uses those psychic powers, the divine eye, and sees right through the disguise. He basically scolds the king of gods. He says, hey, you are stealing this opportunity from the poor. You have enough.
But it's too late. The transaction is already done.
The food is in the bowl. Saka just flies up into the air, shouting in victory because he's secured the asset. He's yelling Ahodanam, basically. What a gift.
It's a funny story, but it really drives home the point that in this worldview, merit isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling you get for doing a good deed. It's a hard asset. Even gods are desperate to hoard it.
And the monk connects this to samsara, the cycle of rebirth. He says traveling through life is like a long journey. If you have merit, you travel first class. If you don't, you're walking barefoot on broken glass. The algorithm of precepts and meditation helps you accumulate that currency, so the journey is at least bearable.
Okay, but let's pivot to the finale. Because eventually you get tired of traveling, right? Even first class gets boring if the flight literally never lands.
Very true.
The monk gets very technical about how to actually end the cycle entirely.
This brings us to the light beam analogy. This was the most complex part of the talk, dealing with what are called fetters.
Right. Fetters are the chains binding us to suffering. He mentions there are 10 of them. Lower fetters like lust and anger, and higher fetters like ego and the sense of I am.
And the big question he poses was, can you break the big chains without worrying about the little ones? The monk says yes. In fact, he argues it's much more efficient.
Walk us through the projector analogy. I think that explains it best.
Imagine a movie theater. You have a projector shooting a beam of light. That light represents your consciousness, your craving, your self reaching out into the world. The image on the screen represents the physical world, the beautiful car you want, or the person you're angry at.
So usually self-help or even basic therapy tells us to fix the image, paint the car a different color, learn to manage your anger, reframe the narrative.
Exactly. We are scrubbing the screen. We are trying to change the movie while it's playing. The monk says, don't touch the screen. It's a waste of time. Cut the power to the projector.
If there is no light beam, there is no image.
Right. If consciousness doesn't land on an object, the object ceases to exist for you as a source of suffering. He says that by practicing Anapanasati, that breath meditation, you are training the mind to stop projecting. You are cutting the higher fetter of constructing a self.
And if there is no self being constructed, then lust or anger has nowhere to land.
Exactly. If there is no seed, there is no plant. You don't have to fight your lust directly.
Yep.
If there is no you to be lustful, the lust just evaporates. It's a shut down the generator approach rather than trying to fix all the individual appliances.
It feels much more surgical. Instead of fighting 1,000 battles against 1,000 different desires, you just fight one battle, the creation of the ego itself.
And he emphasizes that this works. He says you can do it the long way, contemplating how the body is gross to stop lust, for example. But that involves thinking, and thinking creates more being. He suggests just shutting down the construction process entirely.
It ties beautifully back to the beginning, doesn't it? The blackout at the monastery.
It really does. At the very end of the sermon, the monk mentions that every house should be prepared for emergencies. He talks about having solar cells and water pumps. He notes that water is actually more critical than electricity.
It perfectly mirrors the spiritual advice. Be self-reliant. Don't depend on a short-term ordination. Don't depend on a charismatic teacher. And don't depend on the power grid. Build your own generator.
Precisely. The algorithm precepts, jhana, solitude, is the toolkit for total self-sufficiency. You become your own island.
Now, before we go, there was one phrase you mentioned in our pre-show notes that really stuck with me. It was a specific translation choice regarding the enlightened person. The monk talked about someone being beyond hope.
Yes. In English, and really in most cultures, when we say someone is beyond hope, it's a tragedy. It means they are lost, incurable. But in this context, the monk describes the Arahant, the fully enlightened person, as being beyond hope because they have already finished the job.
They don't hope for anything because they lack nothing.
Correct. Think about it. We spend our entire lives fueled by hope. We hope for the weekend, we hope for love, we hope for peace, we hope for a better political situation. Hope is actually a symptom of lack. It's a statement that I am not okay right now, but I hope to be okay later.
The monk asks, when will I be free? And for the enlightened person, that question just dissolves.
The hope is silenced by the reality of freedom. It redefines success, not as getting what you want, but as ending the wanting entirely. It's the ultimate retirement.
That is a powerful, if slightly terrifying place to end. We are so used to the chase. The idea of the chase being over is, well, it's something to really meditate on.
Perhaps while sitting in the dark during a blackout.
Exactly. Whether you're looking to audit your AI, trick a god, or just sit quietly in a room, it seems the formula is the same. Just don't forget to check your generator.
And maybe keep the 8 precepts while you're at it.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.